What is glatt kosher meat?
The Torah says, "Ubasar basode treifa loy seichelu." Any type of meat that's treif should not be eaten. What is treif? Treif is when the animal has a medical problem. It has a defect within the actual body of the animal before it's shechted, in such a way that we know that this animal could not live for more than 12 months as a result of this problem that the animal has. There are some treifis, there's some defects, some problems that the animal could have that are very, very obvious that you could see from outside. Some of them you have to check after the shchita. Halacha l'Moshe Sinai, there are 8 different types of treifis, but when you start breaking them down, the Rambam ends off with a list of 70 of these treifis. Even though there are 70 potential treifis in every single animal, as we said, a treifa that will not allow this actual animal to live, we don't have to go out, search, and look for these treifis. There's a special chazaka, there's a basic understanding that we know that if an animal is alive, it's probably okay. The Gemara says in Chulin that chazaka, the minute that an animal is shechted properly, correctly, this animal should be kosher. Nevertheless, there is an exception to this rule. The exception is regarding lungs, being that the lungs are a very, very delicate part of the body. The lungs are very, very sensitive to different changes. Even though the other treifis, we don't have to go ahead and check every one of the treifis, the lungs, we have to check the lungs, being that the lungs could have many problems. It is a very common thing that these lungs have a problem. After they shech the animal, they remove the lungs, they check the lungs to see if these lungs are in fact glatt, are they smooth, or do they have certain type of defects in them. One of the problems that these lungs have is a thing called a sircha. Sircha is a leftover part of skin, looks like a piece of skin that connects the different parts of the lungs one to another. The sircha could be one of the two. It could either be that there was a hole in the lung and the sircha grew over it, this extra piece of skin grew over it, or it's a piece of skin that will, in the future, fall down and make a hole into it. There are different types of sirchas. There's some sirchas that are very, very thin, and in a very, very simple way, you could just peel them off, and it's still going to be a smooth lungs. And some sirchas are so thick that are actually a real problem. When it comes to the lungs, there are 3 categories. Category number 1 is absolute smooth. That's where the word glatt comes. Glatt means smooth. When you shecht an animal, remove the lung, and see the lung is absolutely smooth and complete and good, this lung is called glatt kosher. This is glatt kosher according to all shittas, including the Sfardische Psika, including the Beis Yosef Shulchan Aruch. This is called glatt Beis Yosef, absolutely perfectly glatt and kosher. If the lung has very, very fine sirches, very, very fine little pieces of skin, you remove gently the sirches. If you remove them gently and it's still smooth and there's no hole that was made, it is still called glatt, but this is called glatt according to the Ramah. This is called glatt Ashkenazim. Some do eat the glatt. As we said, the Sfardim don't eat the Ashkenazi glatt, the Ramah, but it's still kosher for sure according to Ashkenazim. If it took a whole bunch of work to remove a thick, big piece of sircha, and after they removed it, they checked and saw it did not cause a hole, it is going to be called kosher. Obviously, if it made a hole, then it's going to be called treif. So let's put it all together. If they opened up the lung and they found that the lung had major sirches that were removed, and after removing these sirches, it caused a hole, it is obviously treif. If the sirches you're able to move them, but it was a lot of work, it's going to be called kosher, not called glatt. If it was very, very simple, thin sirches that were removed and there was no hole, it's still going to be called glatt, but glatt only according to the Ramah. And if they removed the lung and the lung was perfectly smooth, no problem, no sirches, that is called glatt kosher according to all shittas. Based on what we explained, obviously, Glatt kosher only has to do with meat, not with chickens, because chickens we don't check the lungs, and so much more. It doesn't have to do with milchik. So if anybody goes and sees a big sign, Glatt kosher milchik restaurant, you should really ask yourself, how glatt kosher could a milchik restaurant be when the whole idea of glatt has to do with lungs of an animal?